on this work. And the reason for that is because I'm going to give a very, very brief overview of 120 years of Cefas work. So there will be a lot of people and a lot of funders and things like that. But yeah, also full disclaimer, I'm not going to talk about Sprat. There are reasons for that. The primary one is because Sprat is currently being proposed for a fisheries management plan, and as of yesterday, as a civil servant, I'm not allowed to talk about it. So, no Sprat today. Something much more interesting in the East Marine region. So, for those of you who don't know Cefas, Cefas is an executive agency of Viera, and our science provides the underlying basis for advice on ecosystem-based fisheries management towards or with the aim of a sustainable exploitation of our marine resources while ensuring the protection of marine biodiversity. We've got offices and labs around the country, particularly in Lowestoft, in Cefas, but also a little bit more up north in Scarborough. That is our old fancy new vessel, and old fancy vessel and fancy new building that opened a couple of years ago in Lowestoft. So the bulk of our fisheries work is around stock assessments, and stock assessments are qualitative and or quantitative assessments of fish, or primarily fish. And most of our work contributes to ICES stock assessments and advice. For those of you not familiar, ICES is the International Council for the Exploration of the Sea. And the Cefas is very active. We contribute to stock assessments of the mussels, fish, pelagic fish, elasmobranchs, and increasingly shellfish as well. But a stock assessment is no more than estimating how many fish there is in the sea and forecast how much we can take in the future. So the ultimate goal of this is to set quotas sustainably and try is a very big word there, try to manage the exploitation rate. We use different models. When I mean we, is my colleagues who are very statistical minded. But yeah, they use these very complex or more simple models on the assessments. The message with this slide is that the purpose of the assessment is the estimation of the spawning stock biomass, how much fish there is in the sea, the fishing mortality or exploitation rate, if you like, and the establishment of reference points that allow us to assess the status of the stock. The type of advice varies with the quality and availability of data. Less information, there is more uncertainty. So this data is primarily based on commercial catch, but not only. And here I'm going to give an example of what commercial catch can tell us. And choosing squids, the type becoming increasingly important in the North Sea. And this map is a time series of squid catches. And we see that the squid distribution across the North Sea increased over the 35-year, now nearly 40-year period, when only about 20% of survey stations collected squids, and in recent years is more than 60%. And there are significant relationships with this increase in the catch and also the climate variables, although we are still trying to understand that. And these two maps show exactly that. So the previous was based on commercial data, this one is based on fisheries independent data. And we see from early 1920s, the squid was basically in the south of the North Sea and is migrating north and north and becoming more important. So the take-home message is that squids, but also cuttlefish, are highly mobile species, and they are known to perform these very large migrations. Although the stock status and the population structure remain poorly known, we are doing some work to address those data gaps and information gaps. And this is around spawning and nursery grounds. We just published some work in the channel, not in the North Sea, but in the channel on spawning of cuttlefish, using genetics and microchemistry for the definition of biological units, and also studying environmental factors like climate change and how all that affects the assessment of the stock. The final bottom line is that we need to consider, we are now, as we increase our understanding of the squids and cuttlefish populations, we now know that we need to consider that more holistically and look at other aspects of the ecosystem functioning, and their implication for mixed fisheries and also on the stock status of the fish. We need to consider cuttlefish or cephalopods when assessing the state of the fish, but also, as we did this morning, seals and Bob asked me for an assessment of some data on 2023, and I pick up some landings data, and these are the top 10 fisheries in the central and southern North Sea, the Eastern region, and as we see, the top 3 is crabs, cockles and haddock, and then all the way down to the top 10, so those with squids, and you can see the numbers that they are increasing. Is increasingly important for fisheries and cephalopods. And there's some declines, for instance here, herring, a sharp decline in the last few years. So a little bit of more detail, and in particular for the East region, the top 3 most important fisheries are crabs, cockles and whelks, and this map show where they are mostly caught. So the crabs along the east coast, but also often more offshore towards Norway, so outside our waters. And this is data from so it's UK landings from UK vessels landing into fishing outside UK, but also landing in UK. But it gives you the an idea where this fishery is occurring and its importance. Also important to note that most of these are non-quota stocks, meaning it's not tagged, there is no quota defined for that, with all the implications that brings. But what it means is that there is, those stocks are not subject to catch limits, and the access to these non-quota stock fisheries has been largely unrestricted, although there are some measures that control the exploitation rates. There is the reference there, there is the latest stock status for edible crab is available. That was published a couple of months ago, which will give a very good overview of the current status of the crab stocks. We at the moment, we don't do stock assessments for cockles or whelks, although as we collect more data, we try to improve those models, but at the moment, very low confidence in those outputs. But yeah, all of these and all this data is to provide evidence to policy and management, but also the tools for fisheries managers that include to understand the status of the stocks, the biological and fisheries interactions, with the ultimate aim to use a MSY approach, a maximum sustainable yield approach that, without going much into detail, is embedded now in the UK law through the Fisheries Act 2020. For that reason, also the quotas are set in line with this MSY approach. So, being given the 2-minute warning. So basically, all of this is in line with the guidelines and legal requirements, primarily from the Fisheries Act, but there are many other legal instruments, and that explains why Cefas does this. And the Fisheries Act sets now the legal framework to achieve sustainable fisheries in UK, and Cefas has been providing all the evidence to support DEFRA with the information on biology, life history, and information on stock assessments that will feed into the development of the fisheries management plans. And I think I'm towards the end now. The fisheries management plans are evidence-based action plans that are being developed by the fisheries policy authorities in collaboration with the fisheries sector and other stakeholders. The purpose of them is to deliver in the future sustainable fisheries in UK. And out of interest, in 2020, so towards the end of 2023, last year, the first 5 FMPs were published, and 4 of them are relevant for the North Sea and the East Marine region, and they cover basically all the non-quota, but also included the non-quota stocks, but also included the crab and lobster and king scallops. Finally, I think we are towards this ecosystem to fisheries. That again is another aspect in the Act, in the Fisheries Act. But managing the fishing activity is also of that approach. There's gaps that we need to information on, for instance, multi-species, how fish interact with seals and seabirds, and things like biodiversity, food webs on the seafloor, indicators for good environmental status, and was widely mentioned as well of climate variability and climate change in the marine resources. Last slide, I promise. The observations, Bob asked me as well to provide some interesting observations in 2023, and I cherry-picked these 2 ones. One, an increase, a marine heat wave in the North Sea, or Central North Sea, regarding 2023. We see here the comparison in the same day in 2022, the sea surface temperature, and at 16th of June in 2023, with all the impacts that brings to the marine ecosystems as a whole. These have been more frequently observed, these marine heat waves. The impacts or the effects are still very little understood. But also a little bit further south, in South Suffolk, the report of this invasive barnacle growing on a plastic that was drifting and found on the beach. And this is another example of how marine litter is critical to bring non-native species into the UK. Thank you very much.